Welcome to a very special walk-off version of the Bullpen Show. I'm your host, Austin Alexander, and you're going to be meeting our guest, Luke Young, in just a moment. First, I want to thank our sponsors, Architech Sports and Carolina Counseling for Athletes, for this episode of the Bullpen Show. Also want to make mention, since we've been with you, all of our information with the Palmetto games has been put out. We will be back at Sumter, Riley Park at Sumter again for the 2026 the 19th version of the Palmetto games. We'll be back to those hosts who do such a great job of having us in their doors and on their field. So look forward to that. All that information's on there. The schedule is coming. The invite list is posted. Many guys have already signed up. Look forward to seeing who's going to be there. And if you are a player who is planning, who has been invited and is not going to be able to attend either due to football, injury, or some other reason, please let us know that. So we can build that puzzle and make sure we put that together and make it an optimal moment for all those kids that will be attending. So I want to stop right there. One of the guys that I sure hope will be at the Palmetto games this year is a local legend in Clinton, and we're going to talk all about that. Luke Young had a tremendous high school season this year. Was hitting balls out of the ballpark at a crazy rate, but none bigger than when he was able to do it on the final day for his high school team. I'm going to go ahead and set the stage for you. I was there. It was a really cool moment. Everyone in Clinton was there. They'd backed their trucks up. There were several people deep all the way around the ballpark. The momentum was high. They were playing well. They had a one-game lead coming into Game 2 of the state championship against Atlantic Collegiate. Goes extra innings, a power arm is on the mound, and this guy steps to the plate. Luke Young comes to the plate, hits the ball out of the ballpark, a walk-off homer in the bottom of the eighth at home to win a state championship for his Clinton Red Devils. So I want to welcome him in right now. He's done a ton already at the high school level, but we're going to talk about that moment. Luke, I appreciate you joining the show today. I want you to go back to that moment. You connect with the baseball. You see it sail over the fence. Give me an idea of what it was like to be Luke Young in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome, going into that bat, if you go back and look at our team photographer, the video of the home run, right before I stepped into the box, I took a long look at the dugout and the stands, and, I look in the dugout and everybody's all my teammates are up on the fence, cheering me on. And, and that's kind of gave me the calmness knowing that I got it. I've done this all year, and, I just got to do what I've been doing. That's just getting my ace swing off early in the count. And so, I was looking for a fastball. I know Logan, so we actually played on the summer team last year, but I know he can throw the ball really hard. So I was like, he's about to throw me a fastball first pitch, and I'll be on time with it. And he actually ended up throwing me a slider down in the zone, and I saw it and got my ace swing to it.
Well, you mentioned you knew Logan Newcomb, obviously a very good player in his own right, had a tremendous season in his own right for Atlantic Collegiate. You said you'd done it all year long. You really had. You'd had a tremendous year. You'd put a few balls on the other side of the wall. In that moment, bottom of the eighth inning, everybody's looking to the guy who's done it all year long, even though you had a really good team. We'll talk a little bit more about your ball club this season, but the moment just kind of came to you. It really is the type of dream any high school player hopes to have in a situation to be in. All of a sudden, you found yourself in that moment. When you came through, when you circled the pillows, once you hit home plate, obviously in the waiting arms of all your teammates, the crowd's going nuts. Just give us an idea of what it was like to be in that moment, to realize everything had connected in that moment. You connected with the baseball. Obviously, the crowd is going crazy. You had done it. I mean, give me an idea of what that must feel like in that moment to realize we just won the state championship on the swing of my bat.
Yeah, I mean, no matter how much I say or anything about it, it can't really sum up the actual feeling of it, It was unreal. Off the bat, I knew it was going to go out. And so it was kind of like everything's like nothing else mattered. I was kind of in the moment. And then it kind of hit me when I was around the second base. I was like, we really just won this thing on that swing. And, it just shows you how special it is to the city of Clinton and to all my teammates, and yeah.
When you said you're sitting on a heater, let's remind folks, the guy runs it up there 93, 94. So you didn't even get the pitch you were looking for, but you were able to catch it and catch it good. And like you said, sent everybody into a frenzy that came there cheering for the Red Devils that day. Well, obviously, you cross home plate, you celebrate that moment, trophies are handed out. Pretty cool. Well, give us an idea, once the dust settled at the field, what it was like in Clinton, what it was like to be the hometown hero in the moments following the game, the days following the game, and even now.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I still have people come up to me all the time whenever I'm in town, and I go to local restaurants and I don't have to pay for my food because they know who I am. And yeah, I mean, sure, like weeks after, it's still kind of a surreal feeling, but just having the community there for us, it's unbelievable.
Well, I'm sure you've probably taken some pictures with people. You maybe even given out some autographs. And like you said, life will never probably be the same there locally. It was something that it really wasn't just a shot that was heard around Clinton. It really was a shot heard around the Palmetto State because it made waves in every part of our borders. And it was really cool to be able to witness it personally. I'm glad that I took somebody else with me because it was so hard to get to the field. We obviously are trying to get velocity and we're trying to evaluate the game, report the game. We're also trying to get recordings from the different players, and there were a lot of good players in that ball game. And so I was fortunate the guy that went with me, Chipper Johnson, was able to actually get a video from the third base side. It was the only little place where he could get in there and actually get up next to the fence. And boy, that thing went viral right after we posted that. It was big, and I saw different versions of it. I thought at first that he had hung a slider, but I realized it was actually a pretty good pitch that you were able to get to. And I watched it several times, and I'm just sitting thinking, wow, how cool that must be for this young man to be able to have that moment. So congratulations to you, congratulations to your team. It wasn't just that moment, really. Obviously, you got to do a lot of things well to get to that point. So if you could kind of take us back to the beginning of the season, you think you've got a good team, you've had some success, you got some good players surrounding you. Coach Spangler, you open up the year. What was kind of the message? What were the goals, I guess, for this team? Give us an idea a little bit about what the journey was like before we all showed up and saw the home run to win it.
Yes, sir. It was definitely a long time coming. After last year we had a 21-8 record. You might look at that and say, "Oh, that's a pretty good season." But after we lost last year in the playoffs, we were all sick. It was very disappointing. And so coming this year, we knew that we were gonna do what we needed to do to get it done. And we only lost one senior last year, so we got almost the entire team back. And yeah, I mean, one thing that we needed big time this past year was leadership. And me, all the seniors, me, Tanner, Jaden, we did a fantastic job of leading everybody this year, and showing them how much we're willing to put in to win this thing. Because me, Tanner, and Jaden, we've already won a state championship our freshman year, so we know what a state championship team looks like, and what they practice like, and the kind of mindset they bring every day to to practice and everything. And so we were gonna do what we need to do to get it done. And come first game of the season, we're all up here. We're like, yeah, we're ready to rock and roll. And we ended up losing our very first game of the season. And so after that game, we're all like, man, that sucks. We had high expectations, and we lost our first game. But I guarantee you ask every single person on our team after that game, if you would ask them if we're still going to win a state championship, every single one of them would have said yes. And sure, we had lots of ups and downs in the season, but when it came to practice and everything, after those losses, it really shaped us into the team that we became. Because like when we lost to Mid Carolina at Mid Carolina, that's when that we won really bad because they're a big region rival. And so the next day at practice, you could just tell, like you could see it in everybody's eyes, like we're gonna lock in and we're gonna get this thing done. And so it was definitely a long journey. There was tons of ups, tons of downs. And, we rode the wave of the season, and we got tougher as it went on. And the team really bought into the mindset that we're gonna put in the work every day, and we're gonna take it all serious, and we're gonna do this thing. So it was awesome.
Yeah, a lot of times people just see what happens on championship day. There's so many things, underlying things and things behind the scenes that have to happen to put yourself in that position. It sounds like you were certainly surrounded by a cast of guys that had a like-minded goal. And of course, that day we were all able to show up. The place was packed and got to see what happened on championship day. But, there's so much more that goes into it. So I appreciate you giving us a peek inside to kind of give us an idea of what happened long before the dinger or the shot heard around the Palmetto State. Well, Luke, obviously it was a great year for you, 2A player of the year. That home run culminated a 14 home run spring. So you had your share of other really cool moments, finding baseballs on the barrel. We've for this whole time leading up to now, you've been a senior, you've been a part of the 2026 class. If you could kind of give us an idea of what your recruitment has looked like to this point, and then give folks an idea of what you've got going forward as far as anything regarding reclassing, where you'll be going to school. Paint a picture and help us understand what you've gone through to this point as of 2026 and what you look like going forward in terms of your recruitment. If you could clear up that muddy water for us.
Yes, sir. So coming into August, that's when coaches can first contact you of your junior year. I had I don't want to name any names, but I had a really big school offer me. And, I was really excited about that. And then they ended up pulling the offer because, rule changes and roster cuts and everything. And, so I kind of got down on myself about that. But, as the summer went on, schools reached out and, with all the rule changes, I kind of fell through the cracks. And, this past summer, played with the Palmetto Blacksmiths, which is at a P27 Academy. And I actually lived at P27 Academy all last summer. And so I got a glimpse of, how amazing Coach Warner is over there and the amazing facilities they have. And I started to think, how good would I be if I was here full time? And that was at a season for them. And that we were still getting really good work in the facilities and hitting every day and everything. And I was like, how good would I be if I was around these players all the time? And how good would I be if I was able to go hit or go work out right out my door in the apartment? And so, we kind of dug into that, and I talked to Coach Corey about it a lot, and he was talking about, the good and bad things about it. And, it was kind of late last summer that I decided that was something that I want to do was to go to P27 Academy after my senior year at high school at Clinton and reclass down to 2027. And part of that was because the facilities and the coaches were awesome and everything. But another really big part of that was because, I wanted to see that high level pitching every single day. I'll get, 200 something at bats in the fall facing 90 plus. And so how valuable is that to me, seeing, and in the spring you're facing, high elite level arms every single day. And so I think that's gonna be super valuable to me to get that experience now because, let's just be honest, it's not the same as 2A baseball competition. And so, I think that's gonna be super valuable to me is to get all those reps against that high level talent just to give me a better shot to play first year in college or potentially go in the draft.
So just to clarify, all along you were going to play your high school season at Clinton as a senior, finish out your eligibility there for the Red Devils, and then at the end of the season reclass to the 2027 class at P27 and play next season at P27. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now you go into, and it's interesting because when we were doing the rankings, we were trying to figure out where to put you. So we did both. We had you in the 2026 class as that season wrapped up, and of course, going into the summer and then the recruitment for all the guys that are 27s, 28s, and on down, we went ahead and put you in the 27 class as well. So going in now as a 2027, you're in that summer of that right now, going into the recruitment. For a college coach that's listening to this, what are they getting in Luke Young? All right, you're also a very good catcher in addition to being a guy that can swing the bat a little bit. Tell us about who Luke Young is as a player. What is that college coach who's recruiting you eventually going to get?
Yes, sir. They're definitely going to get a leader on the field, a very vocal player, a very high energy, has great body language, whether he's doing good or bad, and just, a player that, a good team player that, helps their teammates and definitely puts in the hard work every single day. And
all right, well, I know it's been a crazy summer. We talked about all the hoopla following the dinger. As we record this, you just got back from Miami from a huge event down there. Tell us what you've been up to baseball-wise since the high school season concluded.
yes, sir. So right after the state championship, I was talking to my dad. I was like, I'll play next weekend, like in the summer. And so, we ended up, I think I took that weekend off just to kind of like simmer down a little bit and, got right back to it. But, been playing with the East Cobb Astros up in Georgia. And so playing at East Cobb every weekend or Lake Point, and then obviously going down to Miami this past week for that big national showcase was pretty awesome. But it's definitely a great experience, being on a very high level travel ball team that wins a lot of games and goes very, very deep in these big tournaments.
When you had a long day yesterday, you were playing, and obviously, you told me right before we got on air, got in well after midnight. when your plane landed. Tell us a little bit about that event when you were down there, the big event that you were at, Perfect Game National, if I'm not mistaken. Tell us what they put you through, how you did.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. You know, we played at the Miami Marlins Stadium, and so it was pretty surreal being able to, you know, be down there, be in the dugout, and be in the batting cages down there in the tunnel, and you know, just being there, like on that field, it was pretty awesome. You know, we do like a pro style workout, and then you know, you play a couple games, and you know, they give you a bunch of gear and everything. It's awesome. It was definitely an amazing event, and definitely had a ton of fun. And it was definitely a very, very, very cool experience.
Really cool. Well, what else do you have on your schedule? We're sitting here first part of July before P27 opens up and before you report there. What baseball wise do you have going on?
Yes, sir. I think I got a couple more tournaments here in July, and then you know definitely gonna try to make it to the Palmetto games at down to Sumter for sure.
Yeah, you better make it there. We look forward to seeing you for sure. Well, look, I mean, it's very obvious you're a very good baseball player, and that goes without saying. You look at the statistics, and the accomplishments, all that speaks to being a pretty good ball player, right? But tell us a little bit more about you as a person. Some of the things that you enjoy when you're not at the ballpark, when you're not in the gym, when you're not doing things baseball related. What are some things that you enjoy away from the game?
Yeah, my granddad has a big old pond over his house, so you know I'll get a couple of buddies and we like to go fish, and then you know whatever hunting season it is, I'll go with my dad and we'll go hunting, and then really just hanging out with my buddies and stuff like that.
Do you play video games at all?
I do, yeah. I got my older brother's back from college right now, so I'll be playing my Xbox with him sometimes at night.
What other sports do you enjoy? What did you play growing up? What are some different things you did outside of baseball? What are some different things that you did sports wise? What do you like to watch on TV if you're watching something other than baseball?
Yeah, so I always played football and baseball growing up. My dad, he was a big football player. He played football at Clemson University, and so you know, obviously, I played football growing up, and I played all through my high school season until my junior year. We won the state championship my junior year, and it was really cool because I got to play linebacker right beside my brother, and so that was a really cool experience. And then after that year, I decided to step away from football. You know, I wanted to pursue baseball completely. I wanted because that I knew that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I'm best at. And so I decided to step away from football my senior year, and ended up going to a bunch of really really big tournaments in the fall. And you know that was awesome, getting all that exposure and doing well at those tournaments. It was pretty cool.
And you stepped away from football for baseball because you knew that was going to be your meal ticket going forward as the sport you were the most talented, I guess. But did you miss football? With football being a big part of your family, big part of your background, did you miss that?
Yeah, I definitely missed it. You know, growing up, I had, you know, all these teammates playing football that played baseball too. And, you know, football, it's a different kind of sport from baseball. You know, it's more physical, and, you know, at times it's more tough. And so, you know, having those teammates that I played with my whole life, you know, it was kind of bittersweet, you know, knowing that, you know, I'm not ever gonna play football again, but you know, now I get to pursue my dream of playing in the MLB one day.
You touched on a couple of things there, Luke. What are some things in football that helped you as an overall athlete? What are some things from football that helped you as a baseball player?
Yeah, I would say the guaranteed number one thing is the weight room. You know, we would show up in the summer and early mornings, and we would work out like 4 or 5 times a week, and that was definitely a really big game changer for me. Definitely because I gained a lot of weight and a ton of muscle mass between my sophomore year until my junior year, and that's when I got more physical, and you know I grew 1 or 2 inches too. And so the weight room's definitely been a really big part of my development as a baseball player in the football locker room or football weight room. And you know it kind of helped me on the tougher side, you know, knowing that you know you're gonna get knocked down, you're gonna fail, and knowing that you know you're gonna get back up, and gotta keep going.
That's right. Well, you've mentioned several people in this podcast that have been a part of your journey, and for a player to get to your age, to get to this point, the success that you've had, there are probably a lot of somebodies that have their fingerprints on your life and then on your career. One of the things we like to do towards the end of our podcast when we talk to guests is to get a little better idea of who maybe some of those people are, and give our guests also that opportunity to thank some of the people along their path. So just want to basically give you the floor here, Luke, to kind of thank some people along the way that you couldn't have done it without.
Yes, sir. I mean, first and foremost, I want to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, because I wouldn't be close to where I am today without him. And definitely my dad, he's definitely done more than me than I probably know. And, I'm forever grateful for that. And, my mom, all the stuff she does for me, and all my coaches, Coach McCarthy, that was at Clinton, and obviously Coach Spangler and the other Coach Spangler on the team, and then Coach Pitts and Coach Stevenson. They all do an awesome job of pouring into the team. And want to thank my family. I have a really big family. And so, there's 9 of us. And so it's tough, going to the ballpark every day or all the time, and doing all that. And so definitely want to give a big thank you for them. And then definitely want to give a huge thank you to my team. I've played with them my whole life. And so definitely I want to thank them for, shaping me into the player I am today. And then all the rest of my family, my grandparents, and then all the coaches that I've had throughout the years, whether it was, 8U all the way up to high school. So I wanna thank all of them for everything they've done for me. But yeah.
Now, Luke, one question that I didn't have on this sheet that I was going to ask you, but I can't let it slide. You mentioned you have 9 people in your family. You got to tell us a little more about that. Give us an idea what that dynamic's like.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's a full house for sure. We used to have a really big gray van because, really big family. But once I started driving and my older brother started driving, we didn't really need it anymore. But it's definitely an experience for sure, and that, I'm never really gonna get any peace and quiet in the house. It's always gonna be loud. You got people running around all the time. But I mean, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I mean, I love it, and yeah.
Well, all right. How many brothers, how many sisters, and ranging from what age to what?
My oldest sister, she is 22, and Brett, he's 20, and then so I got 4 brothers, 4 sisters, 2 brothers, and so Natalie, she's 7, and Bo, he's 11, Josie, she's 13, and Sophie, she's 14, and then me, and then my older brother at 20, and then my older sister at 22. So it's definitely a very wide range of age gap there.
What is your role in the house as it pertains to the younger siblings? Do they look up to you? Do you feel like that's an important role that you have in their lives?
For sure. I mean, I know they look up to me, especially my younger brother Bo. He's gonna be a really good baseball player, and I can tell that he looks up to me a lot. And so definitely trying to do a better job of pouring back into him. Teaching him what I already know now, and just helping him along his journey and giving him the best shot that he can get.
Well, you certainly raised the bar for young Bo, but we look forward to seeing him when he comes through. At some point, I'm sure we'll be looking for Bo Young when he rolls through Clinton when that time comes. So, well, Luke, I really appreciate your time. Outstanding stuff. Really great to get to know you. It was really cool to be able to be there for your big moment to this point. But with all that you've accomplished to this point and how hard you pour yourself into it, there are going to be a lot of more cool moments in your baseball career and in your life. So you've still got plenty more to go, but you're at the mountaintop right now, certainly in Clinton, and just glad that folks outside of Clinton got a chance to get to know you. Glad I did, and folks across South Carolina who heard about your home run, saw the season you had. Now we got to know the guy who was behind, was in the uniform and behind the barrel of that particular home run and that particular
Sure.
day that brought so much joy to so many people right there where you live in Clinton. So, Luke, I appreciate your time. And before we go, is there anything else that you would like to say? I want to give you the floor one last time. Is there anything else you'd like to say to folks out there?
Yeah, I mean, I want to give a big shout out to y'all, Diamond Prospects. Y'all do a phenomenal job of getting the exposure for Clinton, South Carolina. Clinton isn't a huge or it is a big baseball state that we know that, but other people might not think that. And Diamond Prospects does a phenomenal job of getting names out there and going to games, and getting great coverage. So just want to give a huge shout out to y'all over there.
Well, I appreciate that, Luke. I didn't even ask him to say that. So thanks, Luke, and it's our pleasure. We love watching good baseball, and we know when we go to Clinton, we're going to see well-coached, hard-nosed, good baseball. And
That's right.
that was the case in 26, and I'm sure that won't change anytime soon. So once again, Luke, I appreciate your time fitting us into your busy summer and your busy schedule this week. I appreciate you letting us jump in together and kind of go down that road. A lot of fun, a lot of fun. So At this point, we want to go ahead and wrap up. Just remind everybody that the Palmetto games are coming August 8 and 9 at Raleigh Park in Sumter. We'll be back there again August 8 and 9. All that information is on the website. The invite list is on there. The registration forms are on there. And then once we get everything that we need to build those rosters, obviously we try to keep everybody into the geographical area that they hail from. We got to even out the positions. You got to make sure the pitching is even on each side. Same thing with the catchers, infielders, outfielders. But we try to keep everybody together so they can represent their geographical area when we come together and have that star-studded all-star game in Sumter. Again, August 8 and 9. All the information's on Diamond Prospects. We'll have plenty coming out on our social media leading up to it. A lot of former players. It's pretty decorated. A list of guys. Luke has played in this before. A lot of guys that are playing at the college level, professional level, major league level have played in the Palmetto games. And so we look forward to bringing some of those stories and some of their memories from back when they played in it. So stay close to our social media as well. So for Austin Alexander and Luke Young, who's joined us today, I would like to thank you guys for joining this version of the Bullpen Show. Also a special shout out to our Architech Sports, Carolina Counseling. Appreciate all the help that they provide us to bring us episodes just like this. We'll see you at the ballpark next time.